Hey everybody, John Felt here. This is the Blue Water Outlook Weekly Weather Briefing for the 21st of July 2024. Normally late July and August, you expect things to slow down, the lazy days of summer. Jet stream meanders up well to the north, and most of the nation doesn't have a lot of jet energy, so it's fairly quiet. I'm going to talk about that in this week's briefing, if that jet stream's actually doing that or not. Let's get started. Well, first off, some of the weather risks this week. We're looking at hot weather over the western U.S., and we're looking at some excessive rain over parts of the south central U.S., especially Texas. Now, last week, we started off the week with a very strong windstorm, a squall line, or in meteorological terms, a quasi-station or quasi-linear convective system. And what that means is that along this line, we had a number of areas that were bowing out. Each one of these is a bow, and each one of these produced that wind damage. And in many cases, that was over 70 miles an hour. Up around Chicago, there were some weak tornadoes, and overall, this caused a lot of problems right along its path as it moved through parts of Illinois and into Indiana. Okay, so we want to look at the tracks right here this week. Past week, storm tracks. Yellow are wind tracks. So also the East Coast got a lot of wind. Parts of the plains, orange and pink, those are hail reports. Now, in addition to the severe weather, we had quite a bit of hot weather, especially last weekend in the central and the south central U.S. Take a look at the heat index above 100 degrees. So a lot of hot weather around, but more recently, some pleasant weather has pushed in to the Midwest and the Great Lakes. Rain last week, somewhat scattered, really pot-marked over the southeast U.S. That's a summertime pattern with the heat and humidity. Not much at all over the western U.S. Now, I mentioned some pleasant weather overspread the central U.S. That's in green. Those are below normal temperatures. The hot weather, especially the unusually hot weather, was over the Pacific Northwest and parts of the Northeast U.S. Remember climate models a number of months ago? That's what they were calling for this summer in this area here and this area here, and also the Southwest. Now, the hottest temperatures of the week, green, look at that, 75 to 85 in Minnesota and Wisconsin, parts of Michigan. 80s in that lighter green, but down here, well above 100. So right now we have dew points, I would call them moderate in the 60s. That's not overly moist, it's not overly dry. The western U.S. is just parched, hot, dry weather. Now, taking a look at rivers, the long-term flood that's been going on for weeks now is beginning to recede. Those flows are going to start to fall out very shortly. And I want to also show you some areas that have been unusually dry, and these are low flows in this image here. So once these rivers start to drop off here, say St. Louis here, you can see in the next week it really drops out. That's a lot of volume of water. So once we drop, maybe within the next week, it looks like we're going to be in pretty good shape on the upper Mississippi because it'll take a lot of water to bring that back up. Okay, so let's look at the jet stream, and we have an amplified flow. So that's certainly not what I said about that jet stream sort of lazy meandering. It's an amplified flow. That is actually what we've seen a lot, and some scientists have research that says with a changing climate, we get a loopier jet stream, a wavier jet stream, and I see it more in winter, but look at this, we're seeing it in summer. And what that's doing is as it pushes that up, that's given hotter than normal temperatures in this region, colder than normal temperatures in that region in the east. Okay, later this week, well, we start to have this area of high pressure start to push over off into the east, and what that's going to do is gradually diminish the cooler air. But for the first 5 days there, look at that blue. That's 5 to 10, maybe even 15 degrees below normal. In the western U.S., still pretty scorching heat, very hot. And then as we go through the rest of July into early August, by the time we get to early August, we have some hot weather. Now, Texas is sort of interesting here in that the rain and clouds sort of linger, and that could keep temperatures that could be really hot this time of the year on the cool side. Or maybe not on the cool side for Texas, considering it's Texas, not as hot. Okay, anything in the tropics, like I said last week, it's not unusual to get an early burst and then sort of really sit back for a while, and that's what we're doing. I don't see anything right now of concern. But like I said, the focus is going to be mainly on Texas here with this stationary front being there for multiple days and producing some heavy rain. Now, where do we need the heavy rain? Well, I've sort of outlined on the U.S. Drought Monitor where we need heavy rain. So sort of West Texas, parts of the Southwest U.S., definitely the Northwest U.S., and the Mid-Atlantic and parts of the Southeast. Where are we going to get the rain? Well, this is going to be a much needed rain in this area. Not so much so, because some of these areas in Texas have been wet. Remember how wet Houston's been. This is where we need the rain, so it's not going to necessarily fall right where we need the rain in Texas. And then the Northwest U.S., that's going to remain quite dry, and that's going to continue with drought conditions. Finally, let's take a look at week 2. Like I said, other than Texas, it looks like the above normal temperatures overspread a good part of the nation, and there's your rainfall, and looks like that wet pattern is going to continue in Texas for the next 2 weeks on and off. That's your summertime, midsummer forecast. Hope you're enjoying your summer. I'll be talking with you again next weekend. Take care.